True reviews here, and I'm totally not being biased with this title. Top 10 British video game characters ever. And believe it or not, but most of them aren't even the bad guy.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ready or not, here we go.
Dudley! Dudley is one of the fighters in both Street Fighter 3 and Super Street Fighter 4. He's portrayed as a gentleman boxer, a kind, well-mannered, well-spoken individual who will pay you a compliment 1 second and then break your jaw with his massive fists in the next. Sergeant Michael Sykes, aka Psycho from Crysis. This Brit was one of Nomad's closest allies during their lad's Beano in North Korea and eventual discovery of a hostile alien race. And no, this isn't actually an episode of Ancient Aliens. But Psycho was such a badass dude that he is definitely deserving of both his own nanosuit and his own spin-off expansion called Crysis Warhead. But just make sure you remember that he's British, you muppet. Captain Ash. Captain Ash is one of the characters from the third instalment of the TimeSplitters series entitled TimeSplitters Future Perfect. He's portrayed as a typical upper-class tough old boy who's a trifling bit spiffing in his mannerisms, what, and can't by the Jove stop his speech from going doolally. In it.
Lane Goodman.
Professor Layton. About as British as it comes here, because I think this is the only character on this list who's an avid tea drinker, which pretty much comes with the territory over in the UK. Hershel Layton is a gentleman archaeologist who gets his kicks from solving puzzles and unravelling mysteries, and in true totally not Sherlock Holmes style, gets involved in bizarre mysteries that surround the unknown or the occult, and getting into a head-to-head with Scotland Yard. Sean Hastings. Sean was first introduced to us in Assassin's Creed 2 and has been there ever since. Though we can all rest easy at night knowing that Desmond is finally dead, Sean does still make a few cameo appearances during Assassin's Creed 4 at different intervals, suggesting that he's still quite active in his fight against Abstergo. However, he seems to be the personification of what most people think British people are like, in that we're all well-spoken, condescending, sarcastic pricks. Yeah, that's absolutely right. We're all condescending, sarcastic pricks. Fucking spot on. Oh well, might as well add being a hypocrite to the portfolio as well while I'm at it. Wheatley. I'd imagine that many of you hearing me announce that part would have paused this video and started writing me angry messages without further watching to hear my explanation. So, for those of you still listening, here's my reasoning as to why an AI is on here. Right off the bat, if you're casting Stephen Merchant as essentially himself, then you can make the character appear any way you like and he'll still come across as British. But let's face it, when you think of British sounding characters, it'd be sacrilegious not to mention the lovable and secretly psychotic artificial intelligence unit called Wheatley from Portal 2. Captain Price. Nothing says British like the phrase tally-ho mustache, which never gets mentioned in the Call of Duty series, but it's what goes through my mind every time I see his face. Actually, no one over here says the phrase tally-ho mustache, so I'm not really doing myself any favours here. We all know who Captain Price is, so let's move on to the next entry before I get accused of being a COD fan.
It was those 3 words to save my life.
Haytham Kenway. Say what you want about Assassin's Creed 3. I know I have, I did a whole bit on it a while back. But that game has some of the best antagonists in the series. Charles Lee was such a horrible character, but in all of the right ways. But Haytham is the focus of this entry, so let's take a look at him real quick. Spoiler alert, by the way. You start off playing as Haytham in Assassin's Creed 3, only to then find out that he's actually the Grand Master of the Knights Templar this time round, essentially making him the main bad guy, though the actual focus is more on Lee than Kenway. Haytham is portrayed as a gentleman bastard. He's charismatic, highly intelligent, physically capable, and commands an unprecedented amount of political power at his fingertips. He's also not afraid of getting his hands dirty, by manipulating certain characters, even going so far as taking advantage of his own son at one point, and getting involved in the occasional casual murder which seems to be an ordinary and acceptable everyday occurrence in the Assassin's Creed series. In conclusion, Haytham fits the bill perfectly when asked to think of a typical British villain. Major Zero. Also known as Major Tom, Zero is your commanding officer in the game Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. More spoilers here, so look away if you don't want your feelings hurt. Zero is the founder of the infamous Special Forces unit known as Fox Unit, and is also the eventual founder of the US Patriots Group, the same group that are at the heart of each conspiracy in the Metal Gear Solid series. However, Zero's British connection comes from his military days, in that Zero was formerly a member of the British elite regiment, the Special Air Service, or SAS for short. Meaning that not only is he a complete elitist bastard, but he's also one of the toughest sons of bitches around, though you never actually get to see him in action.
One more time, got me feeling so free.
Lara Croft. Was there any doubt as to who would take the number one spot on this list? Though having seen 2 reboots, the Tomb Raider franchise still marches on, and at the head of it is the series' iconic pair of... best not finish that sentence. Pistols, yeah, that's what I meant. Hailing from an aristocratic background, Lara Croft has opted to enter the archaeologist career, and if Indiana Jones has taught us anything, then it's that you need to be one tough son of a bitch to be an archaeologist. So instead of digging a trench, or dusting off a small piece of rock that looks suspiciously a lot like the other small piece of rock that he dusted off earlier, Lara is doing it the hard way, by bringing 2 guns to work and then shooting up the local mafia, or wildlife, or ancient god, and this one time a demon. And this is usually not for profit either, because it's all about saving the world or destroying some artifact, or alternatively, keeping it in her massive mansion for you to look at in the next game. And that's a wrap. But if you've got any artifacts in your house that you've obtained by shooting at some ancient gods, then like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can also let me know which artifacts you own by following True Review on Twitter, where I tell you all about what's happening with the channel and when new videos are coming out. Anyway, see you soon!
I swear sometimes I think this life is killing me.